Every choice she makes leads straight back to death.
And then Greg and then Downey.
The story starts with a tearful mother named Jess holding her frightened son, Tommy, close and gently telling him that it was only a nightmare. Jess is getting ready for a boat trip with her autistic son Tommy and a group of friends. They're all supposed to meet later that day at Triangle Harbor. Rushing around the house in a slightly frantic way, Jess pulls a small toy boat out of the pool. Nearby, Tommy is painting, but he accidentally spills paint on the floor. Jess quickly cleans it up. Her dress becomes stained. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Jess walks to the door and opens it, but no one is there. Confused, she changes into fresh clothes and hurriedly finishes getting ready to leave. Before they go, she struggles to calm Tommy, repeatedly reassuring him that the floor has been completely cleaned. At last, Jess and Tommy leave the house and head toward Triangle Harbor. Meanwhile, on a boat called the Triangle, Jess's friend Greg is already waiting for everyone to arrive. Soon, Sally and Downey show up, and Sally introduces her friend Heather to Greg. Jess eventually arrives with a man named Victor, though Tommy is nowhere to be seen. Victor quietly mentions that something seems a little off about Jess. She hugs Greg and apologizes, explaining that she's just tired but still wants to go on the trip. On the boat, she greets everyone, and together they begin preparing to sail. As the boat moves across the water, Jess lies down in the cabin and falls asleep. She starts dreaming about a beach, but soon wakes up suddenly, startled. When Heather asks what she saw in her dream, Jess pauses, confused. She can't remember it at all. Meanwhile, Greg starts wondering why Jess didn't bring Tommy along. Victor explains that when he asked Jess about it earlier, she hesitated for a moment before saying that Tommy was at school. But it's Saturday, which makes the answer seem strange, since there usually wouldn't be any classes. When Heather and Jess come up from the cabin, Greg asks Jess if everything is okay with Tommy. Jess replies that he's fine. After a while, the wind suddenly dies down, leaving the boat completely still in the water. Soon they notice a dark cloud forming ahead of them, and they realize they might be in serious trouble. Greg sends out a distress call to the Coast Guard, but despite the situation with the yacht, they respond that nothing unusual has been detected in the area. Suddenly, the radio fills with static, then catches a different signal, a terrified woman calling for help. She says that someone is killing everyone, but the message cuts off before she can say more. As Greg comes back up from the cabin, the storm is already moving toward them. He quickly tells everyone to put on life jackets just as the storm hits, and everything turns chaotic. Victor and Greg try to steer the boat to safety while the others take cover in the cabin. Greg grabs Jess and holds her close as he struggles to control the boat. Downey clings to Sally while the violent waves slam into them. Then a powerful surge flips the boat over, throwing Heather off the vessel and straight into the ocean. When the storm finally begins to calm, the rest of the group manages to climb onto the top of the overturned boat. But there's still no sign of Heather, and no one knows what happened to her. Sometime later, the group spots a large ocean liner approaching in the distance called Ellis. It looks like their best chance of being rescued. Everyone starts shouting and waving for help as the ship draws closer. Everyone except Jess, who watches it with a strange sense of suspicion. They soon notice the silhouette of someone standing on the ship's bridge. When the liner finally reaches them, the group quickly climbs aboard. Jess still feels uneasy about the situation, but she has no other option except to follow the others onto the ship. Once on board, they realize something strange. There is no one there. Greg suggests that they head to the bridge to find the captain.
Now let's go to the bridge. Yeah, we'll get the captain to put a call out to the Coast Guard. Maybe we'll get a search on for Heather.
As they walk through the ship, Jess quietly tells Greg that the corridor feels familiar somehow, but Greg shrugs it off, saying most hallways on ships look the same. While exploring, the others come across a framed photo from 1932 showing the very same ship. They also learn that Ellis is connected to Greek mythology, the god of the wind and the father of Sisyphus, a man who cheated death and was punished by the gods. His curse was to push the same rock up a hill forever, only to watch it roll back down each time. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by the sound of metal clanking somewhere on the ship. Realizing they might not be alone, the group follows the noise and discovers a set of keys that Jess immediately recognizes as her own.
Is it mine?
She is shocked, unable to understand how her house keys could possibly be there. To prove it, she shows them the keychain with a photo of her son, the same one she keeps in her locker. Sally suggests that maybe Heather survived the storm and somehow boarded the ship before them, which could explain the keys. When they reach the ship's ballroom, everything looks as if a party was just about to begin. Tables are set and food is everywhere, but there is still no sign of anyone. As Sally calls out Heather's name, Jess suddenly catches a glimpse of someone running out of sight and quickly alerts the others. Victor immediately runs after the mysterious figure and searches through the empty corridors, while the others stay in the ballroom. Greg decides to follow Victor, and Jess goes with him, leaving Sally and Downey behind. As they move through the ship, Jess keeps telling Greg that every corner feels familiar, like she's experiencing deja vu, but Greg insists she's just in shock. Suddenly, they hear the sound of running water and decide to investigate. Inside a nearby bedroom, they discover a disturbing message written in blood on the mirror, telling them to go to the theater. Meanwhile, Victor continues chasing the unknown person, following strange clanking noises across the deserted liner. Jess is shaken by the bloody message, but Greg tries to brush it off, suggesting it could be some kind of prank by the crew. The two argue, and Jess walks away. When she returns to the ballroom alone, she finds that Sally and Downey are gone, and the once fresh food now appears rotten and spoiled. At the same time, Sally and Downey discover blood on the floor and follow a trail leading out onto the deck and toward the theater. Back with Jess, she hides when she hears loud thumping nearby. Moments later, she sees Victor stumbling into the room, covered in blood. When she tries to ask what happened, Victor suddenly attacks and begins strangling her. Jess fights back desperately and manages to press on a wound at the back of his head, weakening. Still shaken, she suddenly hears a shotgun blast and rushes toward the sound. At the theater, she finds Sally and Downey crying over Greg's body. He has just been shot. Sally suddenly lunges at Jess, accusing her of shooting Greg. Jess insists she was with Victor, but Sally says Greg himself claimed Jess shot. Downey then asks why Jess told everyone to come to the theater, and Jess denies it, just as gunshots suddenly ring out from the balcony. Sally and Downey are hit, and after trying to help them, Jess panics and runs from the theater. She hides in the kitchen and grabs a knife to defend herself from the masked shooter. The attacker looks inside but doesn't notice her and moves on. Jess slips away to the lifeboat station, hoping to escape the liner, but the shooter catches up with her again. When the shooter hesitates for a moment, Jess knocks the weapon aside and escapes, dropping down to a lower deck like a black widow. The attacker keeps chasing her across the upper deck and even throws the empty shotgun at her as she tumbles over the railing. Reaching the back of the ship, Jess grabs an axe she finds and fights back. After a fierce struggle, she finally overpowers the attacker, only to discover the masked shooter is a woman. The woman tells her the only way for Jess to get home is to kill them all. Jess strikes her with the axe, sending the mysterious attacker falling overboard into the ocean. Shaken and trying to make sense of everything, Jess suddenly hears music playing on loop from a nearby cabin's old record player. When she changes the record, she hears voices outside. Stepping onto the deck, Jess is stunned to see Greg, Victor, Downey, Sally, and even herself on the sailing boat calling for help. Confused and terrified, she realizes something impossible is happening, and as she accidentally sets the record player looping again, she hears the new group boarding the liner, including another version of herself. Jess decides to stay hidden while watching the same events repeat, almost exactly as before, including the same conversations. While the group talks about Sisyphus, Jess secretly looks out and notices her other self glance back, nearly spotting her. Her keys suddenly fall from her pocket, and the sound echoes. The group hears the clanking, so Jess quickly runs away. Later, she overhears them searching for Heather and realizes they were actually chasing her the whole time. The new Jess eventually notices her through a mirror, and Victor immediately runs after her. Jess rushes back to the deck and sees Downey's body floating in the water, picked at by seagulls. Moments later, Victor finds her there and is confused about how she got there so fast after leaving everyone in the ballroom. Jess tries to explain that something strange is happening on the ship, that another version of her is downstairs with the group. She tells Victor that bodies are scattered all over the ship and that this has happened before. She even says she previously saw Victor dead with a hole in his head, but he refuses to believe her. During their argument, Jess accidentally pushes him, and his head hits a wall hook, piercing his skull. Horrified by what she's done, Jess runs away, leaving Victor wounded. While breaking down, she ends up in the crew's locker room, where she finds crumpled notes repeating the same message. If they board, kill them all. Jess realizes the handwriting is her own. The shooter's words suddenly make more sense. Searching further, she opens the lockers and finds finds rows of overalls, the same kind the masked shooter was wearing. Jess discovers a row of shotguns as the voice in her head keeps urging her to kill them all to get home. She notices her locket among a pile of necklaces, realizing everything is repeating. Panicked but determined, she packs ammunition and heads out to save her friends and her other self. The new group moves forward. Sally, Downey, and Greg head to the theater, while an injured Victor wanders. Jess finds Victor, points a gun at him, but reassures him she'll fix everything. She sees her other self entering the ballroom and lets her go. Victor is stunned by seeing two Jesses, and Jess uses the moment to convince him the events have happened before. Suddenly, a shotgun fires towards Sally and Downey near Greg's body. Jess pushes them out of the way, saving them. As they leave the theater, she tries to explain the repeating cycle, handing them a shotgun to protect Victor. Returning to the ballroom, she finds only a trail of blood leading to the dock. Victor might have fallen into the water. In the corridor, Downey shoots at the masked figure, revealing another Jess, bloodied and deadly. Masked Jess claims Victor fell into the ocean and insists they must follow her to survive. The original Jess shouts warnings, but masked Jess captures Sally and Downey, stabbing her. Sally escapes the room, mistaking the original Jess for the attack. The original Jess chases Sally, but Sally hides in the engine room. She finds the control room and sends out a desperate distress call, begging for help. Sally's call echoes over the speakers, revealing it was the same one Greg and Jess heard before the storm flipped their yacht. Jess finds Sally crying on the upper deck, but is horrified to see a dozen dead versions of her. She comforts Sally, assuring her she's not the one who hurt her and Downey. Chaos erupts as the new Jess fights masked Jess, throwing her overboard. Sally dies in Jess's arms. She watches the new Jess greet another arriving group with more versions of herself, realizing the deadly loop restarts every time. Determined to break it, Jess tries to stop the yacht but fails. She witnesses a version of herself accidentally push Victor into a hook, then finds Downey dead. Using Downey's blood, she writes "Go to theater" on the mirror and disposes of Downey and Greg in the water. Jess directs the newest Sally and Downey to meet Greg at theater, dons a mask, takes a shotgun, and becomes the attacker. She follows Greg to the balcony, reveals herself, and tells him she will kill all duplicates to restart the loop. She shoots Greg, then Sally and Downey, as the newest Jess arrives to see Greg dead, and escapes, while the masked original Jess fully assumes the role of the relentless attacker. The cycle repeats. The newest Jess and the original masked Jess clash on the upper deck, ending with masked Jess thrown overboard. Before she falls, she warns her other self not to let anyone board and to kill everyone if she wants to get home. Jess washes up on shore, just like in her yacht dream, and finally makes her way home. Relief hits her as she sees her son drawing through the window, but it's cut short when she hears her own voice. Another Jess is inside, gathering clothes and a toy ship. She watches herself yell at her son for leaving the toy out. Later, Tommy spills paint, and Jess watches herself cry and lash out, frustrated at his autism. While cleaning up, the original Jess rings the doorbell, distracting her, and the cycle of confrontation begins anew. Jess grabs a hammer from the shed and strikes the new Jess in the head, realizing too late that Tommy saw everything. She hugs him, claiming it was just a nightmare, then bags the body, retrieves her lost locket, and hides it in her car trunk. She and Tommy drive off, promising never to hurt him again. A seagull hits the windshield, and while trying to bury it, Jess sees a pile of dead seagulls. Realizing she's still trapped in the loop, she rushes back to the car, but crashes into a truck. Bystanders find Tommy dying and her hidden body, yet the original Jess stands unharmed. A taxi driver tells her nothing can undo the accident. Jess asks to be dropped at Triangle Harbor,
"Take me to the harbor,"
and falls asleep. She wakes with fading memory, meets Victor, who reintroduces himself, and is led to the yacht. Greg joins them, and Jess hugs him, apologizing. She boards Greg's boat, restarting the loop, still clinging to hope of saving her son.